Hello, everybody. Welcome to the critical thinking module. This module focuses on a particular aspect of critical thinking in educational institution, what critical thinking is, when and how to use it with students and in every subject field, steps in redesigning lessons and activities based on critical thinking such as visualization and interpretation and storytelling, advantages of using this method in the classroom, how to form groups and guide students' teams to work together in complex activities based on critical thinking, how to encourage students to ask questions, to investigate and find answers. This module provides knowledge, methodology, insights, skills, and practical approaches to better explain what critical thinking is and how it can be applied in the classroom with maximum benefits. The module offers guidance on how to use critical thinking due to a wide range of practical activities. Learning outcomes of the module are: broaden knowledge about the importance of critical thinking. Learn activities and games aiming at shaping critical thinking. Learn how to engage students and motivate them to establish effective collaboration and develop problem-solving skills as well as their self-esteem. Learn how to lead and deliver experiential activities to stimulate the students' critical thinking skills. Get to know and practice ICT tools stimulating critical thinking. Exchange good practices and discuss challenges with fellow colleagues and the course trainers. This lecture is divided into 5 key parts: definition, alternative thinking styles, Bloom's taxonomy, simple approach to critical thinking, and example of critical thinking questioning. I will begin by defining critical thinking, then I will introduce the alternative thinking styles. After that, we will discover alternative thinking styles, Bloom's taxonomy to highlight higher order thinking skills, which leads into a simple approach to help activate your critical thinking skills. And finally, I will demonstrate critical thinking questioning. Critical thinking is a tool which makes our lives more meaningful and successful. It is easier for us to find the necessary and important information, explore and evaluate all the possibilities and options, make our own right choice. If a person is able to think critically, he or she is intellectually independent, honest with himself. Critical thinking helps to ask the right questions, overcome doubts, establish connections between real phenomena and actions of people, build your own judgments and evidence. There are many definitions of critical thinking represented by the institutions. I would like to share Stanford University definition of critical thinking, which represents the essence of the concept of critical thinking. Critical thinking is a systematic evaluation of the arguments, ideas, and theories of others. The basic premise of critical thinking involves asking critical questions to form an educated opinion of whether or not those resources are credible. Critical thinking is a valuable workplace skill for the 21st century, but developing this skill is a lifelong journey. Although critical thinking is a cognitive ability, it is linked to behavior. By changing and modifying this, we can develop elements of how we evaluate information and make decisions. But there can be some key barriers which affect our ability to think critically. Here's 5 key areas to be aware of and how to challenge them. They are beliefs, opinions, concrete evidence, unreliable, invalid. Alternative thinking styles are sponge thinkers and panning for gold. Sponge thinkers absorb as much knowledge as they can. With the panning for gold approach, thinkers pick and choose what to absorb and what to ignore. Panning for gold is interactive. The thinker must constantly ask questions. In the sponge method, a person absorbs information to gain knowledge. The knowledge people gain in the sponge method stands as a foundation for more complicated thoughts. The sponge method is very useful for grasping basic concepts that someone would want to later develop. The elements of sponge thinking style are absorbing, perspectives, mental exertion, no procedure, trust or reject. The panning for gold approach is an interactive approach. It can clarify important gaps through logical steps or procedures. The panning for gold approach separates what is useful or valuable from what is worthless. The elements of panning for gold thinking style are inspecting, examining, asking critical questions, factual, challenging, repetitive. Bloom's taxonomy is a classification system used to define and distinguish different levels of human cognition, such as thinking, learning, and understanding. The 6 levels are remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Bloom's taxonomy can be represented as a pyramid from the lower order thinking skills on the bottom to the higher order thinking skills on the top. Let's take a look at the details of the higher order thinking skills. Analyzing means breaking information into separate components. Content, unstated assumptions, logical reasoning, and relevancy of data. Questions: why, how, and what if? Evaluating means judging, assessing, and criticizing information. Success: you need a profound understanding of the topic. Questions: so what? And what's next? Creating. Creating means combining all elements of the taxonomy to produce new or original work. Requirement: inventiveness and originality to form new opinions and structures. Questions: how can it be improved? Or how can it changed or adapted?
Teaching students to think critically is an ongoing process. I would like to introduce 6 critical questions that students can ask when someone has something to say or while they are reading. Who? Who said it? Someone you know? Someone famous? Someone in authority? Should it matter who said it? What? What did they say? Did they say facts or opinions? Did they give all the facts? Did they lift something out? Where? Was it in public or in private? Did other people have a chance to talk about the other side? When? When did they say it? Before, after, or during an important event? Why? Why did they say it? Did they explain their opinions? Were they trying to make someone look good or bad? How? How did they say it? Were they happy, sad, angry, or didn't care? Did they write it or speak it? Could you understand it? Visualization and interpretation. Visualization is the representation of an object, situation, or set of information as a chart or other image. Interpretation is the action of explaining the meaning of something. As critical thinkers, we need to be able to know the difference between what we have observed and our interpretation of what we have observed. Storytelling and critical thinking. Storytelling is a teaching method which helps young learners solve given problems and tasks in a playful way and creates constructive and creative comprehension of a given matter. Presented with a storyline, children understand the learning process more easily and effortlessly. When people come up with interpretations and support them with reasons, they are doing what is called critical thinking. And when different people work together to create responses to stories, they develop something more, like problem solving and respect for diversity, and the habit of cooperation, skills and habits that people who don't live in civil societies too often don't have and wish they did. The rules of storytelling. Great stories are universal. Great stories have a clear structure and purpose. Great stories have a character to root for. Great stories appeal to our deepest emotions. Great stories are surprising and unexpected. Great stories are simple and focused. Pixar story spin. To tell an impactful story, these are some simple structures from Pixar. Once upon a time. Set the scene. Introduce our characters. Get people into the mood. Every day. Tell your audience more about the character. What do they every day? What is their daily life? Until one day, something happens to the character's life. It forces them to do something different. It could be an incident or a discovery, and it leads to changes in their life. Because of that, they start their journey because of the above incident and begin the pursuit of his or her goal. The story develops. Because of that, the story continues. And the main character continues the journey and has new exposure along the way. Because of that, the story keeps on developing. The main character fight for the objective. Until finally, the main character either succeeds or fails in the pursuit. Ever since then. This shows the ending, which also concludes the moral of the story. Practical Task 1. Answer the questions. What is critical thinking? How critical thinking can be improved in language classes? What is the major obstacle to critical thinking? What is the difference between the visualization and interpretation? What are the rules of storytelling? What are the stages of Bloom's taxonomy? Was this section new and interesting for you? Practical Task 2. Create a story about one activity to develop critical thinking skills you have learned from the reading section in this course. Represent your story to the class. Summary. Congratulations! You successfully submitted Critical Thinking module. Now you know what is critical thinking, can define different thinking styles, analyze the elements of Bloom's taxonomy, and ask and answer critical thinking questions. You know the difference between visualization and interpretation and can create stories for your students to make lessons bright and creative. All these will help you to be a good teacher and develop your students' critical thinking skills.